Nice! To the video. Before we get started, just a little thing. Did you know I have a Discord? It's kind of just open to anybody as long as you're not an asshole. Down below, it'll be linked in the description of pretty much every single video. Join up. Have fun with us. Because you know what else is really cool? This guy. And there's a lot of stuff just like this. The Discord's kind of multi-purpose, so it's got to do with my videos, my streams, and kind of just the people in there. Like if you're looking for other people to play games with or to show off Warhammer miniatures, I'm really big on that. I like showing mine off, and I like seeing other people's creativity flourish. So that and much more is down below. But hello, everybody, and welcome. This is kind of a thing. I don't know what the fuck to call it. You may not know this, but I actually stream every single weekend. Normally on Saturdays, sometimes Fridays, Sundays, if something comes up that messes my schedule. Normally, Saturdays, 9 p.m. Central Time. And most recently, for 2025, I've decided, since E-Day is going to be coming up on us soon, that I'm going to be trying to get as many of the seriously achievements from the Gears of War series as possible in this year. But this year on streams, we're going to be trying for Gears 4, Gears 5, Gears Judgment, Gears Tactics, Gears of War 2, and then maybe start on Gears of War 3 if I, somehow manage to finish seriously 5.2 by the end of this year. Because here's the secret sauce. If you don't know, seriously is a series of achievements in the Gears of War games, which is basically their pinnacle. It is the most difficult achievement to get across all the games. In Gears of War 1, it's getting 10,000 kills in multiplayer. In Gears 2, it's getting 100,000 kills across the whole game. In Gears of War 3, it's getting all of the Onyx medals. And then Gears 4, Gears 5 have a whole bunch of extra stuff like completing all maps in Horde mode on the insane difficulty or Master in Gears 5, as well as beating the campaign, as well as leveling all the way up, as well as maxing out the classes, as well as this and this and this and this and this. And while a lot of people tout them as like being super difficult or really hard to get, they're really not. Like, the most difficult one I can think of off the top of my head going into it is somebody who's, played these games for almost 15 years at least. The most difficult one is the one for Gears Tactics, where you have to play through the entire campaign on Insane without anyone dying. Which, if you've played Tactics, is a hell of a feat. But for the other ones, even Gears of War 3, which a lot of people say is one of the hardest achievements on Xbox to get, it's not really hard in the way that it's, difficult. It's just hard in the way that it's a fucking time sink. Like, I've been playing Gears of War 3 since it came out in 2011. I kind of stopped playing it around 2014, 2015 when the Xbox One came out because I moved on to other games. But even in the time that I played it, those 4 years that I was, really into it, after it came out, I have close to 11 of the Onyx medals out of, 30, 40 is the total. So I only have, a quarter at most. And it's it's not difficult, it's just, it takes a long time, because the Onyx medals in Gears of War 3 are awarded to you just for doing X amount of thing, X amount of times, like getting 5,000 kills with each of the loadout weapons. That's not hard to do. If you just play a lot of versus matches, it's not necessarily hard to get those medals. It just takes a goddamn fucking long time. So I don't know if I'm going to get to Seriously 3.0 anytime this year, but the goal, if you're curious, if you want to know, which is also being updated in the Discord as I mentioned before, Seriously 2, because number 1 is pretty much impossible at this point. The Gears of War 1 servers are effectively dead. You'll run into a match every once in a while, but I'm not going to be playing it nearly consistently enough to be getting 10,000 kills by the end of this year. Gears of War 2. Gears of War 4, I'm already most of the way there. I've played these games a lot. Gears 5, Gears Tactics, Gears Judgment. I don't think Pop ever had one, but they deleted it anyways. And maybe Gears 5. That one is a lot like Gears 3, where the hardest challenge is just ranking all the way up to re-up 50, which is a fucking insane amount of time sink. But essentially, that's it. I'm streaming every single Saturday. If you want, come by, say hi. I love interacting with the chat, and I love people coming in and asking me questions about videos or Warhammer or Gears of War or whatever else. I just enjoy it, and I like the community and the people who come and show up for it. And this is going to be a consistent thing I'm going to be working on seriously throughout the whole year. Hopefully I don't give up on it, but we'll see. You know, it always kind of goes that way with New Year's resolutions. You'll be able to bully me in about 12 months when I, you know, inevitably fail, because it's just such a fucking grind. But without further ado, this is the first chunk of it of me and some buddies playing through the Gears 5 campaign on Inconceivable, which is the easiest campaign in the entire fucking series. Not because it's actually easy, but because you're allowed to just cheat, as you will see when we get into it. But without further ado, I hope you enjoy the highlight reel, I guess. We're just going to have the Gears 2 thing, which will wash everything out and make it look like it's devoid of color. To get that authentic, you know, torture experience going. But we're going to try and beat Gears 5. It's not going to get done tonight. We might get through Act 1 into Act 2. Bananas down.
Watch on me.
I was going to say, this feels like more like you're giving me a ball and chain to carry rather than...
Okay, yeah, that one was completely my fault, yeah.
I gotta pick up the Mark II. I hate the Mark III Lancer so much. The custom was such a cool upgrade, and then the Mark III is... It takes all the cool factors of the custom Lancer and just throws them away.
No, but we can split up.
Why does JD look like a fascist in a beret? I don't know. I think he's just kind of wearing a beret. I don't think it makes him look any more fascistic. Riches are way cooler than juvies. I think like the idea of juvies is cool, like the fact that they're like made from humans. But yeah, I think Regs are like a cooler monster design. Although I do like the juvies. They're like, they sound like how they sound like elk, like the juvie scream, the juvie call. I think that is a lot cooler than the Reg scream.
I showed a picture of juvies to my non-Gears playing friend at one time, and he called them cum demons. And I thought about that ever since.
I mean, they basically are.
Them cum demons.
You know, they're like little seedlings. That help. Oh, it's any active reload gets you ammo? Hold on. That is so cheating. Oh my god. I thought it was just like perfect reloads. I have infinite boomshot ammo. Holy shit, never mind. This is gonna be the easiest insane Gears campaign I've ever done. What? Oh, okay, so I just have to dodge him because being covered doesn't work. Oh, come on. Anyone like my 1.36 liter bottle of orange juice? Oh, damn. Ah! I didn't even see you, you little fucking bastard. What? Oh. I just burst. Jesus Christ. There's so much bullshit happening right now. The UIR are more subtle? It's not that, I don't think that's that the UIR are more subtle. The UIR just doesn't have a lot about them. Because they also wear helmets that are like purposely shaped like skulls. And all of their branding has skulls with the lightning bolt through it.
Killed me.
Yeah, it's oh my god, they scratch you and you die. What are they, a nail covered in tetanus? Like, what the fuck? They're awesome. I'm realizing now that like the dialogue is not like super out of bounds for Gears. It's just that like before it would be relegated to like 1 or 2 characters. Like either like that voice line of like, how many rockets does a rocket have, or how many engines does a rocket have? Like that kind of line would be like a Baird type line, or like a Samantha type line. But instead of it being relegated to like the one snarky character in the corner, it just gets applied universally to JD, Dell, and Kate.
Yeah, and that's probably my biggest issue with Gears 4 and 5's writing is just Marvel dialogue all across, especially with Gears 4.
They all sound the same, and it really hurts their characters.
There isn't much to like distinguish their personalities. They're all just like wise asses, and that's it.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, like the most you get is Dell is the most separate because he's got the whole tech thing going on, and that's like somewhat of a character trait. And then like JD is like a little bit more cocky, but like when it comes to dialogue, most of it
Yeah, like,
you could
if you
swap
compare-
you could swap the characters around and have them say the same thing and it wouldn't change whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's one thing that you can't do with the original cast. You can't, like, Baird and Cole have two very different types of humor, and you can't just replace their
You
humor with
couldn't
one
just
another.
replace like that scene in Gears 1 when Baird and Cole are like, you know, stomping through the sewers. You couldn't replace that with Marcus and Dom and have it just work.
Yeah.
And like I'm very critical of how the original cast aren't written necessarily all that great, but at least they are distinguishable from one another, which is what this game fails to do. I think the biggest standout is Foz, and I think that's why people don't hate Foz as much, because he has character traits and he sticks to those, and you can't really replace him with anyone else because his are uniquely his own.
This looks nothing like Gears 2. They really dropped the ball when it comes to, like, the Gears 1, 2, and 3 filters, because they look nothing like how they're advertised.
It's just like a color grading filter. Like I've noticed the Gears 1 is just like a cool gray. The Gears 2 one is more of like a sepia, and the Gears 3 one is more of like a greenish yellow, which is roughly how I remember those games color palette wise. But also, it doesn't necessarily make it look like those games. It just matches the color grading of the games, which doesn't make it look like them. It just makes it look like it's washed out. No, but it's like I think it's like the most domineering color on the color wheel that 3 uses, between like Azura and Mercy.
I mean,
and
I guess, but I think that's more so due to just, like, the presence of foliage in that game.
Well, yeah, exactly.
As compared to the other two.
Like in Gears 5, like the main colors you would take away from it is probably like a really stark blue or red, just because of how much time you spend in the ice in the desert. But yeah, like either way, just taking like the most prominently used colors from any given game doesn't make another game look like it. It just sort of gives it this washed out look, because it doesn't change anything about the art direction or like even like the art stylings. It would be really fun to see them like de-polygon all the characters to make them look like 2006 Xbox 360 characters. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But I don't know about that for E-Day, because all we've seen is that one cinematic trailer that doesn't really tell us a whole lot about how the game itself is going to look. If I had to guess, it probably will attempt to hold that aesthetic more so than like the really colorful Gears 5 is.
I'm guessing that it's going to have like Gears Ultimate and Gears Tactics look to it, where it's like what I like about Gears Tactics and Ultimate Edition is I think they have the perfect art style for Gears in that everything has like a very workshop, mechanical, greasy look to it.
Yeah.
And like it's gray, but not like overly gray like Gears 1 and 2.
I think if they went with like the color grading from like Judgment, because I think Judgment is like the best that like the classic games ever looked, but you get like the ergonomic art style of like Ultimate Edition, match it with like the, instead of Ultimate Edition, which is very gray and very like sleet, replace that with like the color grading from Judgment, which has color in it, but it's like the color is washed over by like the immense shadows, and like there's a lot of like fire and everything in all the different scenes that make it feel more alive. It gives like
really
depth
like
to the colors.
Style. It has a lot of bright oranges and reds and blues.
Yeah. It's got like a Battlefield like vibe to the environments that I feel like Ultimate Edition doesn't have. And that's mainly because Ultimate Edition is just trying to copy Gears 1's art style but make it look prettier. Dude, how many... How can somebody eat fucking the same Chinese food? There's 10 boxes here. How can you eat... I love Chinese food. I could not eat Chinese food. 10 boxes, that's like what, at least like 10 meals straight? The Avengers movie has definitely affected writing for like action adventure type stuff in not a great way.
Yeah, and that's like my biggest problem with Hollywood is everything is now like an action comedy.
Yeah.
Especially anything starring like The Rock or Ryan Reynolds.
Dude,
or anyone like that are commonly in those projects. Like they're all just action comedies.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with a action comedy, but like when everything is that way, I think it was stated Netflix was directing its writers to oversimplify their scripts and have the characters describe what was going on purpose so that people who were watching it while half paying attention because they're scrolling on their phone on TikTok or whatever, could still know what's happening and keep up with the story even if they're not really watching it. And it's like, that is so lame.
Gears of War.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of same stupid bullshit, and it's like, dude, I hate that so much. I so prefer something like stories that don't hold your hand, and they just stick with you for a lot longer because they give you like stuff to sink your teeth into and like digest and think about even way afterwards. Like I still think about Red Dead Redemption or God of War or like Senua Saga, stuff like that, years after I've played it because there's so much interesting stuff going on there versus like a game like this, Gears 5. The story is what you see. What you see is what you get. After the game's done and over and the credits roll, there is nothing else to take home from it. Which for some games and some stories it works, but for Gears I feel like it has the opportunity to do a lot more.
The way how I view it is like games like Red Dead Redemption 2 are like a 5-course meal, like a high-quality restaurant, whereas like Call of Duty is like McDonald's. Like it's fine, like you'll enjoy it.
I love the shit out of McDonald's, but like McDonald's is not where I'm like, let's go get catering for my wedding, you know? Like
but like you aren't gonna like remember like 3 months from now, like, oh, remember that time we went to McDonald's and like had a burger?
Probably
like,
not.
No,
because it's all the same.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's just Marvel. Like even if you look at the Star Wars sequels, like they still have that Marvel dialogue. Even
well, yeah, but I think Marvel and like the proliferation of the MCU is what stuck it off. Because think like Force Awakens was 2015, and by 2015 we already had Age of Ultron. So it's like it was already seeding itself into the movie industry as a whole.
I would definitely say for worse. Like as a net overall.
I feel like most things don't use it very effectively. Like there are times where it can be good and it can be, but like managing the tone of when and when not to use it is the most important part. Like I think about like I think James Gunn is really good at that, like in the Guardians movies and stuff, or even like the Suicide Squad. The balance of like quippy kind of funny dialogue and like serious beats and moments is handled a lot better in that.
Yeah, knowing when to use that sort of tone is definitely something that Gears 4 and 5 suffer a lot from. Because I mean, like if in Gears 1, 2, and 3, when the characters are in serious situations or like emotional situations, generally they won't really like, you know, make many jokes. But in Gears 4 and 5, it's like JD, Kate, and Del are constantly making jokes of every situation.
Yeah.
And it like as a result, it makes the entire story feel a lot less, like with lower stakes.
Yeah, it's also like Gears 5 also suffers from like the Star Wars sequel thing where it's like it's very, very clear playing these games that they have no fucking clue what the story is going to be. They're like coming up with it as each game goes, and like as much as they have like a brief idea, the narrative direction is not very strong. Just the
like
the editing, that like little editing like in the fade to black, it was just odd. Like there's no, it feels like there's supposed to be momentum, but Jin is so flat, like the do it, go. It feels like I'm talking to a Fallout 4 NPC.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it could have used like maybe like a short little montage of the characters like running into an armory and grabbing their weapons.
Just something like it's like it goes from like flat to now we're in a helicopter, and like there's no build up the momentum. Plus like the thing with Carmine where Carmine's like, we need help, we're dying, and she's like, slow down. It's like he just said we're dying. What do you think that means? Like there's a lot of like odd choices in that little segment that just it always strikes me as odd every time I replay it. You know, the most important part to remember, though, is this is the part that they use for the E3 stage presentation, which tells you that it's not going to be too bad. Oh, you
But I was on the
died.
upper level, just about to get down.
Yeah, I got you. Damn. I see your question, Hudson. I don't think the interpretation you have of it is correct, because like they're very obviously putting it on. They're using E-Day as like a buffer to put the sequel on hold. But I think the message I got from them saying is that they're not gonna not return to the sequels. They're just stopping to do E-Day real quick. Oh, I have no idea. For Gear 6, I assume the whole game is just gonna, you know, be around Kate and them hunting down the new queen, and then they'll kill her, and that'll for some reason cause some sort of short circuit that causes all the locusts to die for good. Because I don't expect them to do anything super creative, and I think they're going to go the least resistant, most simplistic route towards the end, rather than doing anything kind of interesting. Because if they were going to do something interesting, I think they would have done it in Gears 5, but most of the storytelling in Gears 4 and 5 shows me that they don't really have... The guy who's in charge of the writing the narrative is not that great. At least with like portraying more complex thoughts and subjects, because he did 4, 5, and then Tactics, and it's like all the cool stuff that you could do with 5 and Tactics was just not done. That's the other thing that pissed me off with this game is how fast and loose they play with the authority of the COG. Where it's like, even in, you know, the OG Gears games, in Gears 1 and stuff, Marcus still delineates to Kim's authority, even though it's like clear that Marcus is like the more veteran soldier and knows what he's doing more. But in this, they just shit on the leadership the entire time through the most of the game with JD and Foz, and then eventually, you know, when they pull guns on the president and just tell her, fuck you, we're gonna do what we want anyways. And it's like, how do you guys have a government if this is how easy it is to co-opt it? I think this is another thing. This is a great example of it. The game going out of its way to make sure that you're paying attention to the important bit, because it's like that first shot where it says to those who suffered, and then it like has like the "were butchered." It's easy enough to read "were butchered," but then we gotta have first the Dell reaction, and second the close up on the "were butchered" part to make sure, hey, this is what's happening. This is the story.
Yeah, it was doing really good with subtlety, and
then it just
comes in.
is like, here's the point, and it just shoves it into your face. Do you have an opinion on Sony Interactive remastering Last of Us instead of a third game? So they are doing a third game. It's Naughty Dog, not Sony Interactive. Sony publishes for Naughty Dog. To my understanding, they're doing it to kind of fill the time in between Last of Us 2 and, I forget what it's called, Intergalactic? Right, the game.
The Heritage.
Yeah, the game they showed off at the Game Awards. It's a little bit of that, but they're also supposed to do a Last of Us multiplayer game that they canned because apparently Naughty Dog was making it, and about halfway through making it, they were like, "Yeah, we don't want to make this game. This is not fun for us to make a multiplayer game when we're big on like single player story adventures." So as far as I understand, the remaster is kind of just there to buffer the time in between releases while also giving them a paycheck to continue working on the next game. They did 2 remasters back to back. I mean, kinda, yeah. It is disappointing, but it's like, if they have a big team and they're like trying to keep the team employed and busy while they're working on big projects, I could see why. It's like the company was like giving their own team busy work to keep them from doing nothing in between releases.
This next section is gonna suck, just so you know.
I am understanding of that. Oh, that's interesting. The DBs show as if they're like cloaked enemies.
Yeah, I've never noticed that. I was just about to point that out. I was just about to cry my pants, man. Like, oh god, there's enemies right next to us.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I didn't know they had hunters on this level. Damn it! I was out of cover for all of 2 seconds. Would I play Fallout 5 in 2030? It's not going to be 2030, by the way. Elder Scrolls isn't getting done until at least 2028. And then Fallout 5 will probably be like 2035. Oh! Why were they in the back of the map? Fuck. Most of the deaths I'm realizing now are just going to come from fucking around and not actually earned on the part of the enemy. I like how they made no adjustments to keep the game from being abused, even on the hardest difficulties. Get it, Jack. Hit it with the strobe light of Eternal Frost. Yeah, this feels like cyberbullying. Nice!
Right,
Good job, guys.
What
we
I said
did that
earlier. Like, this section is really easy.
It's easy when you can just cheat.
Yeah, no, it's difficult when you're alone and you don't have, you know, Jack to like freeze everything.
Yeah.
No personal items.
Damn.
Man, kept a lot of people alive today, Sarge.
See, that's a good example of show don't tell. You have Foz do the asshole thing, and then it shows us Del make, like, you know, you could see how he feels in his face. He doesn't have to, like, sit there and then, like, say under his breath, ah, Foz is such an asshole. Just continue to do that for the rest of the game. But they can't.
I do think Foz is overwritten as an asshole. Like, they, like, really hammer it down. Like, no one really, like, is that much of a prick.
I think,
like,
the fact that they, what do you call it? They set the foundation that he's, like, overcompensating because he's trying to compete with JD, who is, like, this, you know, this Nepo baby. I think it's fine with how much of an asshole he is. The biggest problem I have with it is that they completely undo it by Act 3. Where it's like, he's an asshole, and then JD kind of becomes an asshole in Act 2, and then Act 3, no more. Like, he makes a few remarks or whatever that are kind of annoying, but, like, as much of an asshole he is here, that entire side of it is completely gone. It's like he goes from Gears of War 1 Baird to Gears of War 3 Baird in 2 hours. And it undoes a lot of, like, the most...
What I mean is, like, with Foz, like, he's constantly in that state of mind, whereas Baird, he at least, like, you know, he had a little bit of variety. And, like, he wasn't an asshole all the time. And with Foz, I think it's just, like, he's a one-note character. Like, that's all he is.
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't think that's necessarily the issue. Like, if he was just a one-note character, I wouldn't have as much of an issue as much as if he is, like, bipolar by the end of it. I think it would be better if he was just one note, because there's plenty of, like, one-note characters in Gears. Is that you?
I messed up on that one.
My bad.
If I'm invisible, the fire can't see me. Stim? Okay. I thought you were just going to leave me behind. It is Gears.
You know the little, like, thing in the top left? Where you can, like, change it using the D-pad instead of the menu?
Oh, yeah. I like that it's weird that they, like, change stuff. I know that they do, because Jack has, like, the flashlight now, but it's like they added a flashlight onto the Lancer in Gears 4. And then just stop doing it. God, there's just like a list of like, it's like there's a list of changes that aren't bad, but they're just really confusing as to why you would make them. Hey, if you don't understand it, between me and Hudson, and I think even Banana, you've got like 3 Gears of War autistics right here on the stream. If you're ever confused.
Yeah, no, like if we can't understand it, then no one can. Like, yeah, there are a lot of bizarre decisions that were made in Gears 4 and 5, especially 5.
Oh yeah, well, not even decisions, like B was asking in chat, like not understanding anything about Gears, but that's partially correct. But yeah, so if you need the absolute basics of Gears of War, it's not Earth. It looks like Earth. It's basically identical to Earth, but it's not Earth. Earth doesn't exist. but it's like a parallel Earth type world story. Stuff happens, history happens, almost the same, and then at a certain point in the past, they're struggling for resources. A lot of countries fall into one of two different things. You have either the COG or the UIR, which is basically like NATO or NATO, but a little bit more authoritarian for both of them. And they get into this thing called the Pendulum Wars, which is basically a war for resources. Motherfucker! That resource
Did the
war...
DB just explode and kill you? Like when you killed the DB? Like,
when I killed it, it exploded. You know how they do like the tiny little explosive that does like tick damage?
When it exploded, I got down.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah,
But they fight this resource war for 79 years. Sometime during that 79 years, we'll see it in the Gears 5 campaign, they explain it, but sometime in that 79 years, one of their scientists with the COG goes crazy. I'm gonna die. That was a bad choice. One of the scientists goes crazy. He wants to use mutated miners and their children to develop super soldiers. That ends up creating the Locust. And then some 50 years after he creates the Locust, they have been gathering underground because they shove them underground in like a prison type situation. On one random day, they get really mad. They come up from out of ground. They kill a quarter of humanity in one day. And then they go on to kill 99% of humanity for another like 18 years. And then that's like the Locust Wars is like kind of most of the original games. Then it ends with most of the Locusts getting wiped out with Marcus's daddy building a machine that just kills Locust across the entire planet. And then they die out for a little bit. And then they have 25 years of trying to rebuild humanity. And then the Locust, like Palpatine, somehow return. And that's where we're at now. We're at the 25 years later, they've returned, and we're trying to just hold our own and fight back, essentially. And that is the most simplified, bare-bones explanation of it.
I mean, honestly, I don't think you need to even elaborate that much on it. I think all you need to know is, like, it's, you know, Earth, but not Earth, and there's...
I feel like Earth, but not Earth is the most confusing part of that.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I think really all you need to know is, like, yeah, these creatures came up from the ground, they're called locusts, and they want to kill humans, and...
Yeah.
Like, you don't really need to know anything about the Pendulum Wars to know anything, to understand any part of Gears.
Not necessarily. I mean, the Pendulum Wars is more just like a backdrop of how the world is... Oh my god. Okay, you're gonna give me a fucking epileptic attack with that. It all happens on one planet? Yeah, it's sci-fi, but it's like near sci-fi. It's not like Star Wars sci-fi or anything like that. When I'm like the most fragile piece of china that exists on the planet. Poison case in point.
Yeah, Inconceivable is just, like, plain unfair, because, like, you take, like, a single hit and you're dead.
Yeah, well, it's like that one I didn't even take a hit. It's like one of the leeches flew out at me, and I shot my boom shot at it, and the boom shot killed me.
Alright.
Or I was, like, firing
and
at it,
what...
and it happened to fly in front of me.
And that's what I don't like about so many games that have difficulty sliders, is most of the time they just, like, decrease your health and increase enemy health.
That's what I was talking about.
The first time...
Oh, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Alright. Like, the first time I died in this game, when I died by the Grenadier, like, I shot him point blank in the chest with a Gnasher. And he did the same thing to me, and somehow he was the one who killed me.
I made the same complaint when I did my Gears 5 Years Later video. Because, like, I really hate the Gears of War difficulty slider, because it's just enemies become more spongy and you become more weak, and it's the most boring bullshit ever. I was talking about this with, like, some friends because we were playing Helldivers last night, and it's like, I love the Helldivers difficulty slider because the higher difficulties, the enemies don't have more health. I mean, they do a little bit more damage to you, but they don't have more health, so they're just as easy to take down. It just throws 3 to 4 times more of them at you, as well as throwing more, like, elite enemies at you, which would be a lot more interesting, especially for a game like Gears that has a lot of enemy variety, to do something like that, rather than just making it so enemies are spongy as shit, and you can't breathe without dying.
And that's what The Last of Us does really well, is it doesn't really increase their health a substantial amount. Instead, what it does is it makes the enemies a lot smarter.
Yeah, which I 100% always prefer that. Like, imagine if, like, in Gears, if on, like, a higher difficulty, instead of just being spongier, you just had to deal with more scions, or you had to deal with more Like how Horde does. Horde does that, doesn't it? Where it like spawns more shields and it spawns more tougher enemies.
Yes and no.
Mutators, yeah.
Yeah.
Partially. I mean, like point stands like when it's harder, it should be more complex, not just more difficult. Because difficulty isn't just like the wall shouldn't be higher; it should be more complicated to climb over. And yeah, B, you will probably need it because I don't think we're ever gonna not be playing Gears on stream unless I really don't want to. But if you missed the New Year's, the end of the year stream last week, we've come to the. I came to the idea that this year I'm going to try and complete Seriously, which is like a very hard achievement that every single Gears game has its own version of. We're going to be trying to get those, or at least I'm going to be trying to get those for most of the games, as many of them as I can. I don't know. The only other campaign I have to do is Judgment. Technically Tactics, but that's a single player thing. But I'm prepping myself because I know it's not going to be nearly as easy as this is.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like, it's gonna be really, really rough.
Yeah. Like, I know it'll be hard for sure, but...
Like, I mean, as I said, like, in the Discord, like, it's not...
It's the same thing we're talking about, like, difficulty. Like, it's not hard, it's just really, really, really it makes it tedious more than, like, just straight up difficult. It's not like doing, like, God of War, like, the Ganav fight on, like, Give Me God of War. Like, that is infinitely harder because, like, the main thing is, like, parry timings and stuff like this rather than...
No, Judgment, it's not, like, the insane difficulty that's part of it that makes it so difficult is... Yeah, it's the declassified missions.
That too, yeah.
I mean, especially the Karn fight. Like, it's not even close. Like, that is...
Yeah.
like, Queen Mira on insane levels of difficulty, if not more so.
Yeah, but fortunately as well, we can get 4 people on for Judgment rather than just the 2.5 that we have here. I say 2.5, but Jack is the most powerful part.
If I recall correctly, that's the one game where everyone has to be on the same difficulty. If I'm not mistaken.
It may be. I'm not sure. I have no idea.
Actually, no. I think you can, if you're doing it from the main menu, everyone has to be on the same difficulty. But I think if I recall correctly, you can join mid-level on a lower difficulty, and as long as you leave before the end of the mission, then it'll still count.
Set. Okay. Maybe. I'm curious to see if it does or not. I figure it wouldn't, just because Judgment is just the Gears 3 architecture, but like expanded. And I know Gears 3 allows you to select separately, but I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out when we get to it. That could be
my bad.
Jack running right into my line of fire, trying to get me killed.
Like, I don't know about you, but the impact of dead civilians in Gears 5 just isn't nearly as impactful as it was in, like, Gears 2 or 3. Like,
I think
in
3
Gears
was...
2, like, when you're... In Gears 2, when you're, like, going through, like, looking for Maria, and, like, you hear all the people and, like, the coffin things, the Iron Maiden
cells
type
and stuff.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, when you see the slave labor, like, all the dead civilians around, like, it's impactful. Whereas with Gears 5, like, maybe it's just because, like, all the civilians look cartoonishly massive.
I think
like,
it's because they're just
level.
not the focal point of the scene. To say, like, the prisoners in Gears 2, it's like you don't see any civilians in Gears of War, for the most part, in any of them, except for in the prisoner mission in Gears 2 and in Gears 3 when you go through Char, and there's, like, a specific reverence built up for it. But in Gears 5, like, the civilians here, they're just like a backdrop for the setting. Like, it's like a war zone. And none of the characters even, like, say anything. Like, the only character that, like, kind of cares about it is Del. But, like, when Del and Foz are talking about it, Foz is, like, being an asshole. But he's being an asshole about, like, the protesters. That's, like, an event that's not even connected to this. So he's, like, just shitting on these people who died just now. Because he's being petty about something else, and it completely, like, disconnects what's happening from what the characters are talking about. I think as well with like the what do you call it? One of the few really well done comics I like from Gears of War, Harper's Story. That one and what's it fucking called? But Ties as well. Those do a great job of like humanizing the casualties of the Locust War. Where in like Harper's Story, you have this guy who was in like those same prisons as Maria, and then like he breaks free and he's like so happy. Like even though he like gets shot in the jugular and he bleeds out, he's so happy to like have seen the sky again before he died because he thought he was going to be trapped in hell essentially.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Those are hands down the two best comics in Gears. Because like again, like they humanize characters and like they make like these larger than life people feel more real.
Yeah. Like seeing Ty's philosophy or whatever get more drawn out, because how he acts in Gears 2, separate from how his comic portrays him, he kind of is just like a bloodthirsty animal in Gears 2, where like he's talking about like, I like the look of the blood in this light. And it's like he doesn't have like the same reverence towards death or the same attitude towards death that he gets in the comics. So it's like without that context, he is just like this kind of violence hungry, like he looks like he's a world eater from 40k, like he's just like hungry for blood. But the comic does a lot to like recontextualize his philosophy and ideas into a way that is a lot more interesting and palatable as a character. Shadow DLC, I do know that they changed it to, I think Kim was the one they decided to keep in because they wanted a familiar face. Because they brought Barrick from the comics, and then Alicia was brand new. And it was supposed to be Harper, but they threw in Kim, because it also made it better for having Rom in Rom Shadow against Kim, and then also showing up in Gears 1, obviously. Which I do think is the right choice. I think Harper...
I'm kind of on the fence about that.
I think it's a good choice, because, like, to me, Harper is kind of like the Carmines. Like, the only thing we get of Harper in the games is you can find his note in Gears of War 2 in the prisoner section. And to me, he's kind of like the Carmines, where I think the Carmines shouldn't be a main character. They should be in the backdrop. They should be, like, there, because I think a series that does it really well is Arcane. Arcane has, like, characters that are in the background that the camera will kind of focus on for, like, a scene, like, for one shot of the entire episode. And then they'll show up. I forgot I had the skin for Kate on. But they'll show up again in like another shot in another episode. And it shows you like in a super simple way the cost of like human casualties in these conflicts and stuff, without making the character like a full voiced thing. Like just the fact, like the cabbage salesman guy, kind of, but more, less of a joke.
Regarding Harper and Min, like, I'm on the fence about that, because on the one hand, I think his dynamic with Rom is cool, but on the other hand, like, Min is such a bland and boring character to me. Like, his only purpose in Gears 1 was, like, his only purpose for the plot was to get killed off so that Marcus can be squad leader.
Yeah. I mean, that's also true for pretty much every character in Rom Shadow. Like, Barrick has more to him, because he's kind of like Marcus, where he's like anti-cog while serving. But it's like even like Ty is just like a shadow of his character in 2 and like from the comic, where Ty in Rom Shadow, he's just there to say goofy shit and that's it. Because he like says a few proverbs and that's all that he contributes to that story. And it's like it feels very lazily done. And it would be interesting to get a character with more character in there, but I don't think just because they swap out Kim for Harper that would have been the case. I think Harper would have been the same straight man as Kim is. He would just have less of a personal connection to Rom. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It depends on how they're... Because Harper was only in one comic, and that's it. Like, he has 20 pages.
He doesn't have character at all. His character is, I'm a cog soldier and I just want to live, basically.
And that's what Rom Shadow could have done, was it could have, like, fleshed him out more. And that's what
it could have.
I'm disappointed at.
It is a big... what if, because there's nothing to really like point to be like, oh, that would have been cool to see, because it's sort of just a blank slate. But I do like him being like a background staging thing, kind of like Rojas, where tie exist. Yeah, where like Rojas is a character that's like we don't even see Rojas. We just hear him mentioned, and we hear that Cole confirms that he died, and it helps show us that there's
body.
No, we don't see his body. Cole just shows the dog tags to, unless his body's around Cole. I don't remember.
Yeah, in Gears 1, you see his body. I mean, it's missing a head, but characters mention it.
Well, yeah. But even still, it's like Rojas isn't a character with like speaking lines or anything. It just helps expand it to where it makes the story feel bigger than like the 4 characters we follow. It's like Call of Duty does it, I think, really well, where like in Call of Duty, you'll play through like entire missions with like a 12-man squad, and every single one of those squad members are named, you know? And it's like, they don't do anything, they don't contribute anything to the story, but the fact that they have a name that's more than just like private or cog gear or civilian character, like it leaves more of an impact whenever you see those characters like die just to the side of the main screen or whatever the hell, you know?
Yeah, Esports K is one of my favorite skins in the game.
It's a pretty good one. I was so disappointed. Like the very last skin they added for Kate in Gears 4 never made it over. They made like a skin that's like in the same vein. Yeah, the Wilds Kate is fucking amazing. And then they made like they made a skin that's like similar in Gears 5, but it's different, and it looks so much worse than like Wilds Kate from Gears 4. And I was really disappointed because that one was my favorite Kate skin, and they added it like right at the end of Gears 4's life cycle. And then
what
it just,
Villager Kate?
On what Kate?
Villager Kate? I think it was like the last Kate skin released in Gears 5. It's the one where
no, that's the one I'm talking about. Where it's like it looks kind of like the Wilds one, but it's just worse. Like it's the same idea with a worse execution.
I wasn't sure which one you were referring to, but yeah, I was referring to
Village
the blue
Kate.
hair one.
Yeah, where she's got like the half shave and everything.
I really like that look, honestly.
I like the half shave, but like the rest of the outfit should be more punky, like how her Wilds Kate looks. It's Oscar. I wonder how confusing this was for a lot of people, because like if you didn't see the end credit scene in Gears 4 that like made his death into like a jokey fake out, I wonder how confusing that would be to see. Like you see him get snatched up and then he just shows up and he's like captain of some random tribe.
Not too well.
Well, if you skip the credits in Gears 4, it'll automatically jump to the post-credit scene.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I guess it shows you anyways.
So yeah, most people would have seen it. Like if they finished the campaign, they would have seen it.
Yeah,
I did not.
It caught Jack off guard. He was like, "Aren't you supposed to be dead?"
I'm sorry, young ones. You can find your way out.
Or if you just like quit to the main menu after the credits start rolling, instead of skipping them.
My mother's dead.
Or if you just didn't play the game at all like I did.
Well, yeah.
So go ahead, send us away.
But that's like another thing, because there is a line specifically, like after you save Marcus, where he's like, all the people from your village are dead, and they're like, oh, Oscar. And then the game just fakes it out, and it pulls like the most pussy move.
How often do they attack?
Just to have him show up in this.
You think there is missed potential with Oscar in this game? Because I mean, in Gears 4, he was so annoying. Like, honestly, my most hated character in the entire series.
A lot more matured in this, like as a character.
Yeah,
and I enjoy it.
And he
like,
gets killed off like immediately.
The whole concept of them pushing back against like Jin, if it was less them just holding her at gunpoint to be like, which doesn't make any fucking sense, and if it was more of like a drama type thing where it's like you have Oscar comes back to the COG, but as like the representative of the outsiders. And it's like him who is like kind of fighting Jin, but like in a political way rather than literally holding her at gunpoint. I think that would be incredibly interesting to see. But instead they use his death to like forward Kate's story, which I don't think you needed to do anyways, because like she was trying to get rid of the headaches. She doesn't really need an excuse.
Well, I get why he was killed off, like because it makes Kate's journey so much more stressful for her, and that's like one of the big things that, at least from my interpretation, like she's under a lot of stress, and that stress, like impacts her decision making.
Well, it's like a cold water bath for
I
Kate.
just got blasted by the silence.
It's like a cold water bath for Kate because she's not just having headaches. It's like her headaches can be super dangerous for the people around her, which I get that. But I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity to use Oscar as to put him in a leadership type role, because you would expect like Marcus or someone to do that, but like the OG Delta cast doesn't do shit when it comes to like talking to Jin outside of telling her, no, we're gonna do whatever we want anyways. But I think if you made Oscar like a political leader on behalf of the outsiders, and then had him like fight with Jin over stuff like that, that would make him so much more interesting, and it would make the schism with what's her name, Jin, feel a lot more natural and real.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for Oscar in this game because like he is a lot more mature, and I do like him a lot more. It's like he gets killed off like immediately.
Yeah, it's like they brought him back after making him a goofball in a fucking tidy whities, just to make him feel serious and then kill him off.
It also doesn't help that the reveal trailer pretty much like just showed Oscar like Oscar's body. Like it doesn't show it explicitly,
it doesn't show him, but it was every single person knew that it was Oscar the second we saw that trailer.
Yeah, because only one person in the universe is that fat.
Yeah, like we knew that Gabe was dead. We knew that Reyna was dead. It's not like there's some random character. Like the only other character could be was JD, and then JD shows up. So it's like,
yeah,
obviously it's Oscar.
And like, I think that was just a terrible reveal because of that. Because it's like, why reveal a character death like that?
Yeah, it's like we know Oscar's that thing. Like they might as well have just shown us this whole mission effectively, like from meeting Oscar to him dying would have been more effective than just like showing him not dying or whatever the fuck, but like showing the body after the fact. Even though every single person who saw it was understanding of that. Oh, that's Oscar. Yeah, it's like that thing I was talking about with like Call of Duty. It's like this would be a great time to do it, but like instead all the characters are just named like Outsider. It's like just give him a name. Just literally go to like a D&D name generator website and generate a random name and throw it onto that random NPC. Like it serves no purpose to like the story or anything, but it does a decent job at like making it feel more like a lived-in universe rather than, oh, this is just NPC number 3. Suck. Being like covered in like all that wet mucus and then immediately going out into the snow. She's got to get so cold so fast. Oh, never mind, she's dry.
I've never noticed that before. Yeah, I've never noticed how quickly she drives.
Yeah, going down the stairs. Maybe she ran by a really big fire, you know? Just singed off. I like that you can, even though the color grading is fucked to shit, you can still tell that Del is like in the really stupidly like colored version of his armor.
Yeah, collector's edition.
You could just barely see like the blue and the gold. I remember all the people being like really, really theorizing about like JD's scar when the trailer came out. They were like, oh, does he have like a swarm infection in his arm? And it's like, no, he just burnt it a little bit. Which is like pretty much Gears 5 summed up. It's like, oh, are they gonna do that? No, it's exactly what it looks like. It is just a wound. There's nothing special about it.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes in the game, simply because like it shows division between the characters. Like, you know, Dell's trying to push one way, Kate's trying to push another way, and JD's trying to push third way. And like in Gears 4, like all the characters were on the same page every single scene. And
yeah,
like that's one thing that I liked about this scene, and that's what gave me hope when I first saw the reveal trailer. I was like, oh, the characters are actually distinct from one another. They actually have personalities.
Yeah.
And then I played the game, and yeah,
it's all plot contrivance. It's not actually any change in the writing quality.
Somehow she got her boom shot back too.
You know, I just picked it up. That's how I would do it if I was Kate, you know.
Yeah.
Make sure I keep that
Yeah,
on me.
on her way to running to her uncle's dead body, she was like, "Oh yeah, I almost forgot my boom shot."
I remember the first time I played this co-op, and I was like, oh, I wonder what it's like to be in the gunner's seat. And I'm like, oh, it's not a gunner's seat at all. It is literally just a compass.
It's not even like I have a compass either. Like,
Yeah.
there's literally a compass on top of my screen.
It's not like it's any helpful. It's just literally, I guess I could tag. But, like, what the fuck does that matter? But I think Queen Reina is also a really awful addition to the game. Because, like, the whole point of, like, Kate, like, having to sacrifice her mom at the end of Gears 4 is kind of just, like, undone.
What does all this have to do with
And I think it's a really lame option, and a really, like, lazy option to continue forward with the Locust. Where it's like the whole point of her killing her was that the Swarm supposedly wouldn't be able to turn her into a queen if she killed Reina, and then they just do it anyways. So it's like, what was the point of that entire thing if, you know, they could just supersede it?
Jack, get over here and pull whatever files you can.
Because I always thought it would be more interesting if Kate herself tried to supersede Mira's, like, you know, Force Ghost within the Locust Hive Mind, and do something with that,
Oh shit. Most of the files are corrupt.
and try and go like the original
Mention something called
Locust path, like what Adam Phoenix wanted, where he wanted the Locust to live on their own underground. Which, now that Emulsion's gone, would be more it would be possible more now than ever, because like in the past it wasn't possible because Emulsion was still around and it was turning them lambent. But now that lambency doesn't exist, theoretically they could do that and just live out in the
Honestly, at
fringes
this point, I
somewhere.
wouldn't be surprised if the Lambent do return in Gears somehow.
That would be funny. If they'd be like, oh, the Locust evolved into the lambent, like, or some other bullshit like that. I could totally see it happening. Damn. Wanted to answer the Locust question this time around. Somehow the answer involved is more disappointing. Yeah. The conclusion for the Locust between this and Tactics is the most, like, boring, disappointing, lame answer they could have come up with. Especially with all the stuff that, like, Gears of War 2 set up with all of the, you know, the temples and the Locust culture underground. It, like, made it so much more interesting, and then everything Gears 5 and Tactics did immediately took it back. Like, it just made it made the Locust so much more lame. The fact that they're, like, you know, 50 years old and all that other bullshit. It really, really hurt the mystique and the, I don't know, just any chance for the Locust to be, like, this really cool, hard to understand thing just sort of went away, and it became, oh, they're just experiments gone wrong.
I mean, like, there's
guess.
no way how they can go from, like, Mount Kadar and then spread across the entire planet.
The entire planet,
colonize-
there's billions of them.
colonize
They
the
have all
entire
those
Hollow.
temples.
Yeah, and, like, their entire architecture, like, their entire culture, religion, like, everything. There's no way how all that can happen in only, like, 75 years, or however long it's supposed to be.
Yeah, well, I think Mira is 80 by the time of Gears 3. So that's E-Day is about, call it 20 years. It's about 60 years before E-Day. Mira would have been born, and then we know she left Niles after already having Reina. So let's say she was 18 minimum, had, you know, if she had Reina right away. That means
She also ages at half the rate.
Oh, yeah. Does that mean she would have been 30 when she was, like... Or do you think they do, like, the Viltrumite thing, where, like, she turns 18 and then all of a sudden she slows down? Someone had a theory that Cantus predate the Locust. I mean, that was B-Chaps's. If you don't know B-Chaps, he's, like, not a Gears creator, but he's just somebody who's been involved in the Gears of War community for a very long time. Like, he's been around since, like, the epic Gears of War forum days. He was really big on the Gears of War forums, and I'll still see him on, like, Gears Reddit every once in a while. But, like, I think he was the first one who put together him and something Slab. I forget. But like a lot of Gears fans, and it was the theory that I believed in, and I still choose to believe because the Gears 5 explanation is so shit, that like the Cantus are an offshoot of humanity that existed underground for however thousands, if not millions of years with the worms, and they developed their whole culture and religion and all the magic mystical bullshit. And then when you have the humanoid locust, like drones, Therons, and boomers arrive to Kadar from New Hope, they intersect with the Cantus, and that's how, you know, Mira gets connected and stuff like that. And I think that is just such a cooler and more interesting explanation than, oh yeah, they built it all in about a few decades. It's like, what? What? Around since the Sarah equivalent of the Bronze Age. That would be like the Age of Armageddon. That's more like the Iron Age or the Silver Age, but even if that had been, even if you know it was like 1 to 2,000 years, it would still be really cool. It's a much cooler explanation than what 5 and Tactics gives us, which is like, I don't know, it feels like there was no thought put into it. I like how he went to a coma, came out, and then got promoted. He got a bunch of civilians killed, went to a coma, came out of the coma, and now he's captain. They are really like that. That's the only explanation I can think of why they're able to like hold up Jin at gunpoint and stuff, is that they are so stripped for, manpower and for people to fill in roles that they're like, you're the best we got. You're like you're the only person we can rely on, because everyone else is either dead or they're a side character, so they're not competent in any way. This has got to be confusing as hell to watch if you don't know anything about Gears of War. They got those powers? Yeah. The Cantus being like an older mystical thing would go a long way to help keep the mysticism around them alive, outside of them just being, manufactured super soldiers. And it's like, well, why are they all of a sudden also magical? Like, it doesn't make any sense if they're just like made in Kadar, and that's the be all end all of it. Okay. God damn it.
Hey, that's just unfair.
Did you just get hit by
I
a
got
rock?
crushed by a giant falling icicle.
I wish they would do a better job of making like Kate's oncoming schizophrenia feel like a more present thing outside of like these small little flashes, because they make it seem almost like controlled outside of being something that's like very erratic and random, a la like Senua. But I think if they made it more random, like replacing random swarm drones or whatever with JD and stuff like that, it would make her like mental snap when we get to like the deeper facility feel more a little bit more organic and also more believable.
Yeah, I'm once again gonna bring up the point of wasted potential.
Yeah, that's Gears 5, like, in its entirety. Gears of War 5, wasted potential. All right, Jack, come down here and do a minigame.
Yeah, I mean, it only has one muzzle, so...
Yeah, it fires
One
one
barrel.
projectile that explodes into, like, a grenade that... what are they called? MIRV launchers? But it's got a magazine that is very clearly meant for, like, 6 rounds.
So we've got enough to find.
Which is why the original boom shot holds 6 shots. But instead of it being 6 shots to a magazine...
I think you're putting
it's-
too much faith in Epic and the Coalition.
Well, yeah, none of their guns make sense. The snub is supposedly a 50 round or 50 cal round.
50 cal, yeah. And the Marxa, for whatever reason, whenever you reload it,
It's the Garand.
yeah, it does a little ping, even though magazine fed.
Yeah.
And the Lancer didn't even start off with the stock.
Yeah. Like the no stock thing kind of makes sense because it's a very 80s, a very sci-fi thing to do. Like Warhammer does that too. It's because they're like soldiers in big, heavy suits of armor that they don't have stocks. Which that is like the least problematic part of the Lancer. Compared to like the chainsaw and everything else. Yeah, the chainsaw and like the dual, like the magazine on the inside is like split into like a Y shape.
Yeah, I was just about to say, why did you park so far away?
I thought we were a lot closer. I thought it was the video game meters and not meters.
What do you mean video game meters?
You know, like some games, like The Witcher, the
The Witcher
measurement
uses
system
like,
is meters.
The Witcher uses like foot marks, right? Like
well,
foot lengths.
it uses foot, but it says M for meters, but it's like each step is a meter. But you know, like some games, like I know Just Cause does it too, where it says like 100 feet away, but you're actually like, you know, maybe 20 feet away from the object.
We find another way across. Okay.
Actually, I wouldn't mind the open world segments nearly as much if they didn't involve so much running.
Yeah.
Like even when you're in like the scripted areas, like they're still way too open.
The worst part about like the downtime for the open world is that like it doesn't do anything with that downtime. Versus you have something like, I think about like the downtime in the God of War games, and like they use all of that time to like give you like Kratos, Mimir, and Atreus just talking about the world and talking about like themselves as characters, and it gives you a lot of really interesting
like,
insight.
Even like Red Dead Redemption 2 does that as well.
Yeah, where you can like flesh out and have like conversations with characters and pick like what you want to talk about. But
Yeah,
like Gears 5
says nothing.
yeah, it doesn't want to do any of that. It doesn't want to do like, oh, well, let's talk about the area or about the cog or about, you know, how the regular people of the world probably perceive a character like Marcus, you know? It's like, oh, we're just going to talk about like, oh, it's really, really cold out here. Uh-huh. And then they have a short piece of dialogue related to the mission itself, and that's about it.
Try that lift.
It's like the Star Wars prequels, where it's like there is no dialogue between characters. The only dialogue that exists is the dialogue that's like them talking about the plot.
They're still coming. Man, they do not want us getting.
Come on! You tell me he was sniping me with the goddamn mulcher? Ah! No! I don't know why, but the flashbang, especially from far away, is just fucking hilarious. Because it just looks like gunshots.
It sounds like them too.
Yeah, so it's less like you're like flashbanging them, and more like Jack's just like walking up with the gat. Dude, hold on, keep doing that. Yeah. Just like from around the corner. It looks like you're just like, you know, putting down a homeless man or something. Because the fact that they had special
I don't know
abilities.
why they removed the buff ability.
Yeah. If they leaned more into that of making them more, because if you have like the ability for them to be a boomer, Cantus, and like, you know, the warden all in one, that would be so interesting to like mix and match with those different abilities. Like imagine having a warden that's also a Cantus, or having a butcher that's also a Cantus, or having a, you know, any of the different various variations of boomer that is also able to act as a Cantus or not. Fuck, my remote just died. Use any abilities, or you just like
Nah,
hide
I
mode?
can't do anything.
Damn, Jackson, insane now. Ah! We have to fight our whole way out of here. What?
On me, behind you guys.
You know if I could aim?
So,
Back again. We're almost done. Oh, come on. We gotta wait for him to slowly saunter through.
oh, chill out. Y'all lucky there's a checkpoint over there, man. I was a mile behind you.
Yeah, that's probably my least favorite joke in the entire game. Like, it really falls flat.
I'll take that under advisement. It's like, oh yeah, it's a reference to the first game. Cool. Oh yeah, right, man. It's like, okay. Okay, we get it. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Might pick up the thing.
What are you doing?
I forgot that you could only plant 2 grenades.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if the grenades would stay in the cutscene.
They should, because your guns stay, so it's like an asset.
I'm watching you.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I'm
you're not
in
here.
the game.
Yeah,
I-
Dell died for real.
No, like the red omen is on my screen. Like, like the omen looks like I'm dead, and I'm spectating.
I wonder if Dell will be in the cutscene. Jack, scan the ice.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah, I'll take a
important.
screenshot and upload it to the Discord.
That's great. That's fantastic. Oh, we're finding new Gears bugs.
Does anybody see a gun in his hand?
No, I do not. I think it's because your arm is also all fucked up. I
Oh
think
my
it's because you
god.
died, so it like didn't register you as like having a loadout.
Yeah, I just put the screenshot.
Because I've done that
server.
before, where like I was like, I wonder what happens if I drop both of my weapons. Or not that I dropped both of them, but I always like drop one of my weapons because I didn't like the look of like having one gun on the back. And every time I'd go into the cutscene, it like defaults to your secondary weapon for Kate. So like because I had one weapon, it defaulted to the pistol. So she was holding the pistol, but like in two hands.
I am not. Your mother was born here and taken from us by her spineless father.
I love it how during this super serious scene, Kate is just wearing her esports outfit.
Yeah, she's ready to go pro after this.
Hey, what's going on?
He's just got that frag in his hand. And Dell is ready for combat.
Hey, what are you...
What did JD tell you?
Kate, I am not gonna hurt you.
No?
Oh man, I didn't even know that. I was just messing around with my frag before the cutscene started. I didn't actually think that it would transfer to the cutscene.
I won't let them do to me.
Yeah.
What they did to my mother.
At this point, it looks more like Dell was about to blow himself up. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, if you do that, I'll shoot myself.
He's like, we gotta destroy this whole place.
It killed her.
With how goofy it is with like the New Game Plus stuff, I wish they would let us just replace the characters with like any in-game model. Like, can't I go through the campaign as a mule and cat?
Well, that would require like so much of this is like built on like just like,
Well, like
the
the-
mocap animations.
Well, yeah, the animation is stuck to their like faces, but
When I was
Yeah.
inside that
at least let me do it with helmeted characters, you know, so that way it doesn't really matter.
controlling them.
What?
Oh, you should have put on characters play as drones.
Oh yeah, yeah, you could do that. You could swap them out for drones.
No, I don't.
You just feel like it.
You know how fun that sound is.
Yeah. You know, this is another thing I really hated, that the turrets are just mulchers glued to a like pedestal.
Has to be another way to open it.
Because it's really strange to have your hand cranked minigun be used as an automated turret. Nesher.
Cryo cannon is easily the most useless weapon ever introduced in the series.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it is incredibly niche.
it's neat as like an inversion of the Scorcher, but it is... I don't know why you would take it. Like, the fact that it has like the same range as the Scorcher, but isn't nearly as effective.
We can send Jack through there.
Really
I'm
sucks.
lost as hell.
It'd be cool if it more like lobbed, you know, like we fired like a mortar, but without the deployment.
I mean, really, its only use is just freezing bosses, and that's it.
Yeah, because you don't really need to freeze any of the regular enemies that you can't just shoot. Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Actually, it didn't work.
Okay, well, outside of the first one, because the first one, it's difficult to grenade tag her, because she's like half in water.
Yeah.
Now or never. Let's kill this thing.
Just blast her in the back. Back shots.
You want me to let her jump then?
Never mind. It's not even that hard of a fight.
It's really not.
But we are gonna watch this cutscene at least 10 more times.
Yeah, dude, I have no idea why they did that.
It's so annoying.
Like, especially on my first playthrough, where like I didn't really know like what the best method was. Like, I died so many times,
Yeah.
and it's so annoying having to.
Yeah.
I'm down, but not dead.
There we go. See how easy that should have been? Oh, man. Just I like the Matriarch's design. I'm glad they went, like, classic Locust with it instead of, like... I guess it makes sense for it to be more classic Locust than Swarm-like. It doesn't look like the
It was real.
whatever the thing is called from the end of Gears 4. I don't think it actually has a name.
But she's not.
Are you talking about the speaker?
No, the random Leviathan from the very end.
hive beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's its name, the hive beast.
It might be. But it's like a name that's like been given to it. It doesn't have like an actual name in the game.
I mean, I think it is as like the objective in the TACCOM.
It's so destructive to like his entire, like the whole sentiment. And it's funny to me because the guy who wrote this is the same guy that wrote Judgment and Aftermath. But like the whole sentiment at the end of Aftermath, he literally like tells Baird, it's like, because he's like so upset at the COG and he hates the COG so much. He's like, you want to be friends? Let's never see each other again. And then he shows up in this and he's just like, I still hate the COG, but in a grumpy old man way. I don't actually have any convictions or loyalties. And I think
also
it does a
find
lot
his
to
aging to be weird because, like, in Judgment, he looks like he's in his 40s.
He was a major in the UIR, so he's got to be at least around the same age as like Hoffman and Loomis in Judgment.
Yeah, he looks like he's maybe like about 50 in Judgment, and
Yeah.
so in this game he should be like 100.
He should be
And
close to
yet
Hoffman's age, and Hoffman's in a fucking wheelchair.
Yeah.
I guess you could say he's built different, but like he's pretty spry for like a, at bare minimum, like 70-ish year old. He's,
Well, there's also a skin for him in multiplayer that's Major Paddock, and he looks
Yeah, the
like he's
young
like
one.
30.
yeah.
Two things I dislike.
Although I can't take the skins too seriously because they did tell us for skins and stuff that they didn't take the timeline or the lore too much into consideration. They chose to go with whatever looked coolest, they said. Like, that's why Hivebuster Baird is young Baird, and why we got, like, Hivebuster Dom and Hivebuster Anya and stuff as well.
Well, the Hivebuster skins I understand, but like Major Paddock and all the other ones that like could feasibly fit into the lore.
They can. I'm just saying, like, I can't, with the liberties they took with other ones and stuff, I can't immediately take the Gears 5's cosmetics as, like, canon, as you would with, like, old skins like Thrashball Cole or, like, Mechanic Baird and stuff like that. Shut up, Paddock, you're a bad character.
I mean, aside from his inclusion, I do like his personality in this game.
It's, like, I don't know, to me it's, like, it's very, like, it's the same thing with Baird and Cole. It's like their personality is not bad. It is just the most, what's the thing called where like TV shows go on for so long? Like the simplification of it, where it's like he's just boiled down to like the most bare bone. I'm old, I'm grumpy, and I hate the COG. But like it doesn't really mean anything as it used to.
Yeah, I meant more so in terms of like entertaining.
Yeah, it's like I think he's probably my favorite character in this because some of the stuff he says, he's just like he plays it very straight, but he does get very flanderized. But we've been going for about 4 hours now. It's like 1 a.m. for me. I'm gonna call it here for the night, and then next Saturday we will be back to finish Gears 5's campaign, and maybe even start something else. I don't know, but this will be it. Thank you very much, Jack and Bennett. Jack's already out of here. Fuck. And Banana for joining me.
No problem.
To see everyone on the next stream next Saturday. Should be same time, as long as I don't fuck up or anything. Stay cool, have fun, be awesome. Ciao.